In what should have been a day of love, commitment, and the promise of a future, Willow's carefully guarded world unraveled in spectacular, humiliating fashion. Dressed in white, surrounded by guests who had come to witness a celebration of unity, she instead found herself facing the ultimate betrayal. Just seconds before pledging herself to Drew forever, Willow, whose strength has long been admired by fans, paused the ceremony with a trembling voice and eyes filled with unspoken fury. The moment was electric. Guests fell silent. A chill fell over the room. And then came the question that shattered everything: had Drew slept with her mother? Drew's hesitation was brief, but it was enough. Enough to confirm the darkest suspicion she had buried deep. He confessed. There was no elaborate denial, no twist of truth or half-explanation. His silence gave way to a broken admission, and with it, the image of the life they were about to share turned to ash. A stunned gasp rippled through the guests, and Willow, visibly shaken, turned and walked out. The grand wedding that had taken months to plan, one meant to symbolize healing and family, collapsed in the span of a single sentence. But this wasn't just a broken engagement. It was the final unraveling of years of tangled relationships, simmering resentments, and misplaced trust. Drew remained behind in the wreckage, left to face the glare of Nina, the woman he betrayed both emotionally and physically. She sat frozen, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, her face unreadable. For once, Nina had no defense, no spin, no attempt to twist blame. Drew's confrontation with her was quiet but damning. He had destroyed not only Willow's trust, but what little peace remained between them all. The romantic alliance with Nina, forged in secrecy, now stood as the monument to everything he had lost. Meanwhile, Willow, heart pounding and dress still pristine but her soul shattered, sought solace the only place she thought she could find it, at Carly's home. The woman who had long been a mother figure to her, a source of calm and resilience, was who Willow instinctively turned to. But even that refuge was denied. Carly wasn't the one who opened the door. It was Michael. And his face hardened the moment he saw her. Gone was the warmth they once shared. His words cut deeper than any blade: she was not welcome. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. With steady, cold control, he denied her access to the children she once helped care for, the children she had considered part of her extended family. There was no room for sympathy in his voice, only judgment. She had brought this chaos into their lives, he seemed to say with every glare. She had wrecked what little stability remained. And so Willow, rejected by the man she almost married, cast out by the man she once loved, found herself completely unmoored. The once celebrated teacher, mother, and survivor was now a ghost drifting through Port Charles with no anchor. It was then that Rick and Elizabeth, long-standing figures in the web of Port Charles relationships, found her wandering outside the park. They didn't ask questions. They didn't press her for explanations or try to make sense of the whispers already circulating about the disastrous wedding. They simply took her in. Elizabeth had seen enough heartbreak to recognize it instantly. She guided Willow gently into her home, offering her a warm blanket, tea, and the quiet assurance that she wouldn't have to face this night alone. Rick, though once a source of tension and mistakes, had changed, and his kindness was unexpected but sincere. Together, they allowed her to stay in their guest room, no strings attached. The silence of the night settled around Willow like a second skin, and in that silence, the weight of everything began to sink in. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating the remnants of mascara on her cheeks and the dull ache in her chest that no amount of sleep could erase. Elizabeth entered quietly, bringing breakfast and sitting on the edge of the bed. She didn't ask what Willow would do next, because neither of them knew. But she offered something more valuable than advice: presence. And for the first time in days, Willow allowed herself to cry. Not just tears of pain, but of anger, of regret, of fear. She didn't know who she was anymore, or what future lay ahead. Everything had been so meticulously planned, and now nothing remained except scorched earth. Outside the confines of that safe haven, the fallout was immediate. Rumors spread like wildfire across Port Charles. Guests whispered about the scene at the altar, about Drew's betrayal, about the implosion of a family already hanging by a thread. Nina, once again cast in the role of destroyer, remained locked in isolation, with even her few allies growing silent. Carly, furious and protective of Michael and the children, wasted no time in publicly denouncing both Nina and Drew. What Drew thought was a moment of temporary temptation had become a public catastrophe, and no apology would be enough to repair the damage. At the same time, Michael's actions at the door raised eyebrows. Though many sympathized with his desire to protect the children, some questioned whether his rejection of Willow was truly about the kids, or about punishment. After all, Willow had chosen to walk away from the altar, not to hide her shame but to confront a truth most would rather ignore. Wasn't that strength, not weakness? But Michael, still carrying wounds of his own, could not separate justice from vengeance. His pain spoke louder than reason. Drew's spiral, meanwhile, had only just begun. In losing Willow, he had also lost his standing in the community, the respect of his daughter Scout, and the last fragile link to redemption. Once considered a man of integrity, his name was now laced with scorn. The affair with Nina had exposed more than just lust. It revealed deep fractures in his character that no amount of good intentions could mask. He became a cautionary tale, a man who had it all and threw it away in a single night of weakness. For Willow, however, this wasn't just an end. It was a beginning cloaked in ash and sorrow. She would have to rebuild not just her sense of self, but her sense of purpose. The world saw her as a victim, but beneath the surface, something darker simmered. Betrayal, once endured, has a way of hardening the heart, of transforming pain into resolve. Willow would not remain broken. She would rise, not as the bride she once imagined, but as something entirely new. Whether the world was ready for that transformation remained to be seen. But one thing was certain, Port Charles had underestimated her for the last time.